Hi, everyone. I think we are live now. Welcome to this week's YouTube video. A little different format from what I normally do, just because of the situation we're going now. It is not an edited video. It is a live video. So I hope you'll give me the grace to be imperfect. I'll be talking about in this video how to deal with the emotions and how to process the emotions that we're going through as we're dealing with COVID-19. I usually talk about mental and emotional aspects of really growing and advancing in your career. But in the time of the COVID-19 situation, I realized there's a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry that is going around. So I just want to take a few minutes today to talk about it and how to process it, how to get through the hard times that are going to be coming up over the next few weeks, and to come through the situation just as strong or even stronger, albeit it will be a challenging situation for all of us that will be involved. So the first thing I want to talk about is what are 4 things that we can do to help us process the emotions. Now, I will have a blog post that will be related to this video that is already up, and I will link it in the description and in the comments below so you guys can read this in more detail. But the first thing that I want to talk about is just really to give ourselves the grace to walk through this process. This is really an unprecedented time in our history. None of us have really lived through a pandemic of this proportion. And it's turning out to be a lot more serious than a lot of us thought it would be. Even like myself, I didn't expect it to be this serious. And so not expecting ourselves to go through this process perfectly, but really have to have the grace to walk through this process and to experience the emotions that we're experiencing, whether or not it's fear or doubt, or you know what, if we're chill and we're okay and we're energetic and we're excited and we have this bubble of peace, as I heard someone say recently, they feel this bubble of peace even in this challenging and hard time. I celebrate you. I am so excited that you clearly have done the work in advance to get yourself in a place of calm so that when tragedy strikes, you're not freaking out. And so I celebrate you and I'm so happy for you. And what I would encourage you to do is really to lend that energy and that strength to someone else to help lift them up out of the fear and the anxiety and the worry, because if not, what I know is that it's only as a community that we'll get through all of this together. So today you might feel strong and encouraged and full of hope. And today I might not. So reach out to that person that may need the encouragement. And you know what? A month from now, a few weeks from now, your energy and your excitement and your sense of peace may run out, and you may have to rely on the very person you encourage now. And so I want you to just really give yourself the grace to walk through this process imperfectly. I know we like to be, gladiators and badasses, but it's okay to struggle. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. There is no shame associated with that. That's the first thing. The second thing is what I want to say is to process feelings, not to suppress them. What I've learned, obviously, I'm also new to this situation, but what I've learned through going through historical harder times is that when emotions come up, especially unpleasant emotions that we don't want to experience, sometimes we avoid them because there's this feeling that if we allow ourselves to feel the emotion, we may get swallowed up by a gulf of despair, a gulf of worry, a gulf of shame, and we may not be able to find our way back out. And so we suppress it and we don't face it. We don't acknowledge it. The challenge is when we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge, recognize, and feel the feelings, when we are in denial or we ignore them, those emotions end up getting stuck somewhere in our bodies. Sometimes it shows up as a lump in our throat. Sometimes it shows up as heartburn, stomach ache. It shows up in some way, even headaches. it shows up in our body in one way or the other because it is stuck and we are not allowing those emotions to move through us. And what I have noticed is that when I historically have allowed myself and I didn't put any shame or judgment on the fact that I felt a certain way, and I said, you know what? Right now, I am feeling despair. Right now, I am feeling hopeless. Right now, I'm feeling frustrated, scared, overwhelmed, anxious. And once I'm able to look at those emotions and to sit with it for a minute, it actually moves up and out of us much faster, and we become liberated from those emotions a lot quicker because we are not inadvertently blocking those emotions from flowing through. And so I want to encourage you today that do not judge yourself. Give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling and recognizing that right now it is a temporary situation. It is not permanent. And so allow yourself to process those emotions so that it can flow faster through and you can acknowledge and get strength to get that encouragement and that courage and hope to go to that next level. But you'll never get to that next level if you kind of hide it. The third is to find purpose and perspective. And I want to say purpose and perspective specifically because, you know, I talk a lot about values. Values are the things that we inherently view as important to us. And all of us have really inherent values. Some of us, our values may be achievement. Some of our values may be our family, relationships. Some of our values may be health and wellness. Whatever your values are, is to reconnect with those values. You utilize this time right now to find purpose and perspective in the challenging situation that we're in. A lot of us are in self-quarantine. First of all, if you have your health right now, there are a lot of people that may have contracted the COVID-19, the coronavirus. They're not doing as well right now. They're not as healthy. So if you are healthy enough to be watching this video, and even though you may be inconvenienced by being locked away in your house, first of all, be grateful that right now you have your health, because I can tell you, you know, I've had challenging health situations in the past, and it wasn't until I didn't have my health that I was so grateful for the times that I did have it and wishing those times would come back. And so even now, as I'm speaking, recognizing the level of health I am is having that gratitude. And then recognizing that, you know, allowing ourselves to go with the flow of the situation. You know, a lot of our identities are so much, especially when you work in the corporate world, our identities are so much tied upon what we do. We have no idea or achievements or our job title. And what these situations remind us of is that we are more than our job title, we're more than our jobs. And at the end of the day, those things are not the most important things to us. And so as you're going along with the flow and allowing the situations to unfold as it is, what advantage, what perspective can you take during the situation? Maybe the perspective is that, look, like, I've really wanted a lot of time to reflect and to think about the things that are important to me. And through this opportunity, you may realize that maybe you haven't been putting the first things first. Maybe where you're going and where you're headed is not in real alignment with what you really want and what is really a part of your deepest heart desires. And so this is an opportunity, a time of silence and solitude for you to reflect and realign yourself with those purposes. And if you've lost touch with people that you love and you haven't been communicated with them, utilizing that free time that you have now, even though it's not planned for, to reach out and to reconnect, albeit virtually or over the phone or whatever it is, but using the opportunity to reconnect with your loved ones and your friends and the people you haven't invested your time in, that you know in your heart's desire you wanted to, but you haven't had the time. Now you have the time. Another thing is practicing self-care. People have been talking a lot about it on social media. Practicing self-care and health is extremely important right now. Getting the rest and the sleep that you need to build up your immune system, reducing the sugar in the diet, so that if you do get in touch somehow, obviously taking the precautions, washing your hands, all that stuff, isolating yourself. But in the event that you do get exposed, that your immune system will be prepared. And so taking care of yourself right now, doing the things, even exercising in your home. I've been walking around on my treadmill and walking around in my house just to be able to do that. Or even if you wanted to read a book or invest in your training and development, or in your education, now is the time to do that. You now have time because maybe your work demands are not as much. Obviously, if you're in the healthcare industry, your work demands are even more than it normally is. And so I give my empathy and my gratitude to the people that are working in the healthcare field. But if you're not, and you're in your home and you're quarantined, maybe it's a good opportunity to invest in your education and your professional development or whatever it is. So what is it that you could take a new perspective on instead of getting frustrated and annoyed at the situation that you're in right now? How can you look at it differently? And the fourth thing I want to say is the practice that I know I have employed to just surrender. And I call it surrender to love. We live in this illusion that we are completely in control of every facet and in every area of our lives. And there are certain situations or certain things that we are in control of. Like the Serenity Prayer says, grant me the grace to know, I don't remember, but grant me the grace to know what I have control over and the wisdom to know the difference. Essentially, what it's saying is that there are certain things that we can change. Grant me the grace to know what it is that I can change and what I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference is what it says. And so while we are in control of certain things, we're not in control of this virus outbreaking. We're not in control of what can happen financially in terms of the stock market and a potential financial crisis that we may or may not go through. Who knows what's going to happen right now? Everything is uncertain. And so surrendering to the fact, not surrendering to give up, but surrendering to the fact that we are not in control, and surrendering not to despair, but to love. I'll give you a quick example. I'm not a parent, but I know I hear people talking about when you have kids, it's like wearing your heart on your sleeve. And I can't imagine if you love a child so much and you take them to school for the first day, and that first day you leave them alone in the care of a stranger. You're actually surrendering your child to the possibility that who knows what may happen during the day when they're not around you. And so having to surrender that child to be in somebody else's care for a full day, I'm sure it can be nerve-wracking the first time it happens. Or even if you have a teenager and they just got their license, the first time you give them the keys to the car to drive, like you're surrendering them to the universe and recognizing that like you've got to let them go. These examples that I just gave you are just examples of where you've already probably surrendered in your life and not noticed. And so I invite you to do the same in this situation. Take all the precautions that you possibly can, but surrender yourself to love, knowing that while you may not be in control, this is what I've been saying to myself recently to keep myself level-headed and calm. It's just saying that I may not be in control of what's happening around me. I may not be in control of the situation, but I am deeply loved by the one who is in control. I don't know what you want to call that person, if it's God or the universe, whatever it is for you. It's surrendering, knowing that you have made it this far in life. You've made it this far through so many situations, so many difficult times, and just surrendering to trust, surrendering to knowing that eventually we will pass through the situation and we will all eventually be okay. So I want you to type in the comments below which one of these tips that I shared has been the most helpful for you. Or if there's any practices that you've been doing over the last few weeks that really has been helping you to stay grounded. Or on the flip side, if you haven't stayed grounded, maybe becoming aware of what's causing you or what has caused you to lose that peace. Maybe it's spending way too much time watching the news, way too much time on social media. Sometimes when we hear negative things consistently coming at us, it actually puts us in the fight or flight mode. And so our sympathetic response, sympathetic nervous system has been activated. But practices such as deep breathing, these mantras that I've given you, can really calm down that sympathetic nervous system and really activate the parasympathetic. And that's the opposite. It's the rest and digest system. And so I want to end today by just letting you know, I'll put in a link in the description below that I'll be having some Facebook Lives as well as Zoom calls, and I'll put the information on my Facebook page, which I will link in the description below. And I invite you that if you want a space where you can just practice meditation or practice nerve reducing exercising or stress reducing exercises, I'll be doing those activities multiple times for free over the next few weeks, because I know it's only through community that we will get through this together. So thanks for joining me live, and I look forward to being in touch and to continue to produce content that will uplift you and encourage you during the next few weeks as we all work through the situation. Have a great week, and don't forget,